My name is Dina McLyman. I'm a health and wellness nurse at Your Medicine Employee Wellness. I've been in the health and wellness field since I was 16. So, needless to say, health and wellness is my passion. I hope by the end of today, some of my passion will transcend onto you. Today, we're going to be talking about the lifestyle things that you can do to reduce your risk of cancer. It is an especially relevant time to talk about this because if you didn't know already, October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If this isn't what you had signed up for, the great part about Zoom is you can make a discreet exit, or better yet, just hang out with us for the next half hour and learn about how you can be a healthier you. So let's first talk about what is cancer. Simply put, it's when cells grow out of control and crowd out normal cells. This abnormal cell growth makes it troublesome for the body. It makes it hard for the body to function in the way that it should. Most people are unaware of the fact that they can reduce their overall risk of developing cancer. You have more control over your cancer risk than you might think. 90 to 95% of cancer cases are linked to environmental and lifestyle factors. I want to take a moment and recognize that that statistic is a jaw dropping one. I'm guessing many of you are shocked to learn that, as I was too. When I learned that statistic, my heart sunk because in my lifetime, I've had friends and family members diagnosed with cancer. With that said, this is one of the reasons I find it imperative to share this information with as many people as possible. You and everyone around you has more control over your cancer risk than you might think. Lifestyle is what you can change. You can take charge of your health and engage in healthy lifestyle behaviors that will help mitigate your cancer risk. That is what we're going to delve deep into today. Today, we're going to focus on the lifestyle factors that will help you decrease your cancer risk and why these lifestyle factors decrease your cancer risk. So, what are these lifestyle factors? What can you do to reduce your risk for cancer? Quit using tobacco products and do not start. Limit or avoid alcohol. You'll want to maintain a healthy weight or work on getting there if you're not there already. Stay or get physically active and move towards a whole foods, plant-based lifestyle. The first lifestyle behavior that we're going to talk about is avoiding tobacco products. This includes cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, and smokeless tobacco products. Tobacco in the United States is responsible for nearly 1 out of every 5 premature deaths each year. When we think about the relationship between tobacco and cancer, most of us usually think of lung cancer, but smoking can cause cancer just about anywhere in the body. So let's talk about how tobacco products cause cancer. Tobacco contains at least 70 chemicals known to cause cancer. Every time you breathe and or swallow a tobacco product, those chemicals get into your bloodstream, which carries these chemicals to your whole body. These chemicals are poison. The poisons can damage and or weaken the cell's DNA. DNA is found in nearly all of your cells. DNA provides the instructions for the cell's growth. When DNA is damaged, cells grow out of control and can create cancer. The poisons in tobacco also weaken the body's immune system, making it harder to fight off cancer cells. I wanted to also touch on e-cigarettes, or also known as vaping specifically, because it has become increasingly popular. And I wanted to point out it is not without risk. Scientists are still investigating how e-cigarettes affect health over a long period of time. It's valuable to know that the aerosol or the vapor from e-cigarettes is not harmless. It contains nicotine and other substances that are addictive and can cause lung disease, heart disease, and cancer. Also, e-cigarettes may contain additional chemicals that are potentially detrimental to health, but could also cause cancer. So all of you are probably like, yeah, I know that smoking can cause cancer. So what else is this lady going to tell me that I don't already know? Many of you are not going to like this one, but yes, unfortunately, alcohol can increase your cancer risk. I did want to approach this with a bit of humor because we are in the midst of a pandemic, and a lot of us are using alcohol to unwind and to cope with the stress of the pandemic. Since the pandemic, alcohol sales have increased exponentially. They've increased over 24%. So while alcohol might be offering us some of that short-term benefit, what it means for our long-term health is telling us a different story. We have known the possible association between the consumption of alcohol and mortality from cancer for over 100 years. Alcohol can increase your cancer risk of a variety of types of cancers. The American Cancer Society's current recommendations are that men should have no more than 2 drinks a day and women should have no more than 1. However, even modest drinking increases cancer risk. The mechanism seems to be due to the compounds found in alcohol. Ethanol is found in alcohol, and ethanol increases cancer risk. Also, the fact that alcohol increases estrogen levels. Having more estrogen in the body than usual is a risk for breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers. And what if you have a spare tire or more? Yes, unfortunately, excess weight can increase your cancer risk too. So what does it mean to be a healthy weight? A healthy weight is defined as a body mass index, or BMI, between 18.5 and 24.9. BMI estimates body fat percentage. BMI can be calculated, or you can simply determine it by utilizing a chart like this one. You can find them all over the internet. I want to take a moment and talk about the limitations of BMI. Like we talked about, BMI is an estimation of body fat percentage. Body fat percentage and BMI do vary significantly across race groups and across the lifespan. BMI doesn't take into account the composition of your weight, meaning how much of your weight is fat mass and how much of it is fat-free mass. It's just an overall estimation, so it may not be the best measure of adiposity or how much fat mass you truly have. Thus, it might not be the best measure of overall health. Most studies of cancer risk related to weight have used BMI or other non-direct measures of fat weight. So without going too far down a rabbit hole on this one, when talking about cancer risk reduction, we'll still be using BMI as a reference. Lifestyle medicine physician Dr. Michael Greger quoted nutritional physiologist Ansel Keys in his book, How Not to Die, and he suggested using the mirror method. If you really want to know whether you're obese, just undress, look at yourself in the mirror. Don't worry about fancy laboratory measurements. You'll know. Excess body weight may affect cancer risk in a number of ways, some of which might be specific to certain cancer types. Excess body fat may increase cancer risk by affecting the following. First is inflammation in the body. Many cancers arise from sites of chronic infection, chronic irritation, and chronic inflammation. Inflammation itself isn't a bad thing. Inflammation allows us to heal and can protect our bodies. However, having too many fat cells causes our bodies to release inflammatory proteins all the time. So chronic inflammation can cause DNA damage and thereby can lead to cancer. Excess fat also affects cell and blood vessel growth. To your surprise, it might be to your surprise to know that fat is actually an organ. With the growth of any organ, there needs to be parallel growth in its vascular or blood vessel network in order for it to survive. The vascular network is what provides an organ oxygen and nutrients in order to grow and survive. Cancer cells also need a vascular network to grow and survive. Growing cancer cells requires access to blood vessels for survival. Excess fat tissue provides cancer with this access. Thus, the more fat you have on board, the greater the vascular network and the greater the probability the cancer will grow and thrive. Excess body fat also allows cells to live longer than they normally would, and it enhances the ability of cancer cells to spread or metastasize. Some cancer cells use fat to fuel their growth and spread. The more fat you have on board, essentially, the more fuel you're adding to the fire. Excess body fat also affects the levels of certain hormones. The two we're going to focus on today are estrogen and insulin-like growth factor 1. So we need estrogen. It plays various beneficial roles in our body. When it is out of balance is when we have a problem. Too much estrogen can cause hormone receptive positive cancers to develop and grow. Fat cells make estrogen in both males and females. Extra fat cells in the body means more estrogen in the body, therefore triggering those hormone receptive positive cancers to grow. Insulin-like growth factor 1 is a hormone that has a variety of physiological functions. The main role of insulin-like growth factor 1 is to cause growth. It helps us grow when we are young, and it's the highest during puberty and early adulthood. So why do we need it after we stop growing? It has growth promoting effects in just about every cell in our body. It turns over our cells daily, about 50 billion cells a day. Our muscle cells, our skin cells, stem cells. Under normal conditions, the body makes insulin-like growth factor 1 as it needs it to turn over and repair these cells. But what if you have an excess of insulin-like growth factor 1? Well, it'll keep signaling your body to grow, and things will grow. Fat will grow, and cancer will grow. Research demonstrates that people who exercise regularly have a lower cancer risk. Why is this? Exercise helps lower the levels of sex hormones in our body. Exercise reduces inflammation. Exercise improves immune system function. And exercise also plays a role in preventing excess weight. This evidence mainly comes from observational studies, meaning that people are followed for years and then they report their physical activity and their diagnosis of cancer. So what are the physical activity recommendations? How much exercise do we need? The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recommends that for substantial health benefits and to reduce the risk of chronic diseases, including cancer, adults should engage in 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 to 100 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity or an equivalent of a combination of each per week. Unless you're training for something specific, it's really not necessary to know or to keep track of what exercise zone you're in. Your body will do a good job of telling you. The faster your heart is beating and the harder you're breathing, the harder you're working. So at a bare minimum, you want to be doing something more than a stroll to your kitchen. The minimum 150-minute a week exercise recommendation might seem like a lot, but it doesn't have to be done all at once. This can be split up over 5 days. That exercising 30 minutes a day, or it can even be split up over 7 days, which would average to about a little over 20 minutes a day. So when you think about it in that context, it's really not that overwhelming. It's simply about moving more. All activity counts towards meeting this exercise recommendations. Even 10 minutes at a time will count. When you have the opportunity to move, do so. Making more of an effort to move throughout the day is a really good place to start. The best evidence to date tells us in order to reduce our risk for cancers, we need to eat more fruits and vegetables and cut down and ideally eliminate animal products from our diet. This includes red meat, dairy, fish, eggs, and poultry. Every time you chew and swallow, the food that you eat has the ability to transform your health. It can either change your health for the better or it can change your health for the worse. If spread out, your intestines would blanket thousands of square feet. This would be about the same square footage of this tennis court that you see right here. I chose this picture to specifically show what a tennis court looks like compared to the human beings on this tennis court. Now imagine the square footage of that tennis court stuffed inside your abdomen. This is the surface area of your intestines. Oh, by the way, your intestines are only about as thick as a tissue paper. So a tissue paper is the only barrier between what you eat and the rest of your body. So what you eat may be your body's main connection to the outside world, meaning your greatest exposure to carcinogens may be through the food you eat, and your greatest exposure to anti-carcinogens is also through the food you eat. You can either assault your body 3 or more times a day with what you eat, or you can heal it. I mean, before we get into the details of why plant foods are better for you, which would you rather have dragged across every square footage of your tennis court 3 or more times a day? This slide is a bit bulky, so don't feel like you have to read through it. I will get to the focal point. The consumption of animal products has the capability of promoting cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC of the World Health Organization, classified meat as a carcinogen. For those that are not familiar with the World Health Organization, it is a specialized agency of the United Nations for international public health. The World Health Organization classified processed meat as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning that it is carcinogenic to humans. So let's talk about what are processed meats. Well, simply think of the standard American fare: sausages, hot dogs, salami, ham, bacon, smoked meat, dried meats, jerky, and canned meats. So not only are processed meats carcinogenic, red meat is classified as a group 2A carcinogen, meaning that it's probably carcinogenic to humans. So bear with me one moment. There we go. So let's get into the meat, pun intended, of why animal products can increase cancer risk. I wanted to make sure, though, that we're all on the same page first with the definition of animal products. Animal products include all meats, which include fish and poultry. It doesn't matter if the meat is red or white. Eggs, dairy products, which includes milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, ice cream, and whey protein powder. Keep in mind that these are also common ingredients in packaged and processed foods. So why are animal products linked to cancer? First, let's talk about HCAs, or heterocyclic amines. Heterocyclic amines are formed when muscle tissues are subject to high temperatures. These cooking methods include roasting, pan frying, grilling, and baking. The longer meat is cooked, the more HCAs are formed. Although eating well done meat prevents foodborne infection, diarrhea, vomiting, but it's associated with the increased risk of many cancers. Heterocyclic amines appear to both initiate and promote cancer growth. When meat is grilled, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are also produced, one of the probable carcinogens in cigarette smoke. Dietary cholesterol is associated with a higher risk of several types of cancers. Dietary cholesterol comes from the stuff you eat. It's found in animal products and it's a component of most junk food. Dietary cholesterol is thought to increase cancer risk because cancer feeds on bad cholesterol. Cancer is also thought to be using cholesterol to make estrogen. Dietary cholesterol increases inflammation and oxidative stress in the body. Oxidative stress is an imbalance between free radicals, which cause cell damage, and antioxidants, which prevent or slow damage caused by free radicals in your body. This can lead to cell and tissue damage. Cell and tissue damage can promote cancer. There's a strong association between high animal protein diet and an increase in the reproductive hormone estrogen. Again, when I say animal protein, this includes all of the animal products I described earlier. They all contain animal protein. Like we discussed previously, when estrogen is out of balance, estrogen can cause hormone receptive positive cancer cells to grow. Remember earlier when we talked about having an excess of fat can increase insulin-like growth factor 1? Consuming animal products increases insulin-like growth factor 1. Again, this is all animal products. Remember, insulin-like growth factor 1 tells cells to grow. In excess, it also tells cancer cells to grow. It helps normal cells transform into cancer cells. It helps them survive, renew, multiply, migrate, stabilize, and even metastasize. It even helps hook up tumors to blood supply. To help you understand the power that insulin-like growth factor has, I want to share this little nugget of information with you. There's an uncommon form of dwarfism that's called Laron syndrome. Those with this syndrome are actually unable to produce insulin-like growth factor 1. Those with Laron syndrome might not grow very tall, but they almost never get cancer. This led scientists and research to speculate, what if you could turn down insulin-like growth factor 1 after puberty, even more than the body naturally does? Well, it turns out you can do just that. By reducing or eliminating all animal product intake and eating a whole food plant-based diet, you will reduce your insulin-like growth factor 1 levels. You also increase your insulin-like growth factor 1 binding protein, which helps the body get rid of excess insulin-like growth factor 1. So, what do plant foods do that animal products don't? Plants are powerful. Plant foods contain phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are only produced by plants. They provide significant health benefits for people who eat plants. Phytonutrients are anti all of the negative things that we have discussed. They have antioxidant properties. They repair DNA damage caused by exposure to toxins. Plant foods have anti-inflammatory properties. They reduce inflammation. They detoxify carcinogens, and they may enhance immunity. They also have shown to have the ability to alter estrogen metabolism. Also, only plants contain fiber. Fiber is vital for good health. Fiber gathers up all those nasty chemicals that may be carcinogenic and removes them from the body. Fiber helps lower cholesterol and estrogen. High fiber intake is consistently associated with lower rates of certain types of cancers. The further we can move towards whole food plant-based nutrition, the better our overall health and reduction in cancer risk. So I get this question a lot. What about organic and free-range animal products? Organic meat contains the same amount of carcinogens when compared to their non-organic counterpart. No matter how happy the animal or how free of chemical agents, the animal product still contains the same amount of carcinogens. Many people also wonder about soy. So let me clear this up for you. The thought that soy could increase cancer risk is because of the isoflavones in soy can actually act like estrogen in the body, and increased estrogen has been linked to certain types of cancers. However, the isoflavones in soy attach to the estrogen receptors in the body, which block the more potent natural estrogens from binding. This is a good thing. High soy intake is actually associated with a reduction in cancer mortality. Some of the misunderstandings also come from the fact that the studies in rodents showed an increased risk of breast cancer. The rodents were exposed to extremely high doses of soy, much higher than humans could actually naturally consume. Also, rodents process soy very differently than humans do. Breast cancer is the most common cancer specific to women globally, but Asians are up to 5 times less likely to develop breast cancer than North American women. This could be due to their relative high intake of soy during childhood. There's growing evidence that eating traditional soy foods such as tofu, tempeh, edamame, miso, and soy milk may actually lower the risk of breast cancer in women, especially in Asian women. So far, the evidence doesn't point to any dangers of eating soy. It's actually the opposite, so please enjoy more soy. When I introduce the concept of whole foods plant-based eating, a lot of people say to me, I could never eat that way. Honestly, that's no surprise to me. Most of you have been on this earth 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. The thought of giving your eating pattern a complete makeover can sound daunting. It is what you have known and learned and lived your whole life. Remember, it's okay to work through change slowly. Anywhere you can move towards eating more plant-based, the better your overall health. It's not about perfection. Instead of thinking about what you are restricting, think about what you can add. This is not just about what we're not eating. It's about what we are eating. I like to think about it by asking myself, how do I add more color to my diet? The variety of colors signify the presence of diverse phytonutrients, which do so many positive things for us. Simply by adding more color, you'll be adding more plant foods, which includes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and legumes, which are cancer fighters. Try making plants the centerpiece of your meals. Using animal products is more of a sprinkling versus the main feature. Swap out the animal foods for a healthy alternative. For example, you could use tofu instead of chicken, beans or lentils in place of beef. Try using avocado instead of butter. You could try a plant-based milk over cow's milk. Circle back to what motivates you by reminding yourself why it is important for you to change. It will keep you focused on things when things feel a bit hard at times. Also, keep yourself educated. The more you know about why this is the best thing you can do for your body, it will help facilitate excitement and motivation within. In medicine, a cancer diagnosis is considered a teachable moment when we can motivate a patient to improve his or her lifestyle. By then, though, it may already be too late. Dr. Michael Greger. This quote resonates deeply with me. I want everyone to know this potentially life-saving and health-promoting information sooner rather than later. I hope I have inspired you to take some steps to move towards a lifestyle that will help reduce your cancer risk. I bet it is no surprise to you that these are the same lifestyle factors that will also reduce your risk for chronic disease, which includes, but isn't limited to, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, and even arthritis. I'll leave you with this quote from the China study, which, by the way, is the most comprehensive study to date that investigates the correlation between the consumption of animal-based foods and cancer. Good health is about being able to fully enjoy the time we do have. It's about being as functional as possible throughout our entire lives and avoiding disabling, painful, and lengthy battles with disease. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Again, please, please, please share this information with your loved ones. I copied our website in the chat, and you can also see it on here. Please email me if you have any questions. If you're interested in learning more about any health and wellness topic, I'd love to share it with you. Just email me and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I do have a little bit of time. I know a lot of you do have to go right at the 30-minute mark, but I do have a question here from Helenia. It talked about aromatase inhibitors affecting weight loss. So I don't have the answer to that question, but I will find it for you. So I will email you privately. And if anybody has any other questions right now, feel free to put them in the chat. And if not, please, please, please email me. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you, health and wellness wise, that might not even be related to cancer risk reduction. So I'll give it a few moments, and if nobody has any questions, we will conclude for today. All right. Well, thank you again so much, and I'm really hopeful that you have learned something today and have taken at least a nugget of information that can help with your overall health and wellness. Thank you so much again.